Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. It is the 1st of January 2023, so it's officially the new year. It's probably ambitious for me to say that this video is going to come out today, but I would like to get it, but maybe not. It'll probably be tomorrow at some point. So it will be the 2nd, but we are going to round up the year. This is probably going to be like the last roundup video I do for 2022. I would have loved to get this out before the year actually ends, but life gets in the way. December, especially towards the end, is a very busy time of the year, and I've just been on a mad one, to be honest. I've been partying, seeing friends, family, just being a little delinquent and just, you know, drinking so much, enjoying life. You know, it has to be done. And to be honest, I would have liked to get a lot more videos out at the end of the year in December. Start of the month, we got off to a good start, but it just slowly, as Christmas got closer, I was just like, yep. So I'm very aware that, you know, I'm a little bit behind on some of the videos. So yeah, and also the last video that I did, the top 50 songs that I heard in 2022, just took so long to actually edit. I couldn't believe, like, I completely underestimated. I started it at the start of the week leading up to Christmas, and it literally took me the whole week because I had to actually figure out which order I want to put everything in, and then the edits, and then I had copyright issues, so I just had to keep going back to it, and it just became a bit of a nuisance to do. But I actually really enjoyed that video. So, and look, the feedback's been great so far. So if you haven't seen that one already, go check that one out. It'll be my last video before this one. It's obviously my top 50 tracks that I've heard in 2022. And again, I got to emphasize for this video as well, this is the, you know, best albums that I've heard this year. I have personally heard, again, it's not solely 2022 releases. I just need to make that very obvious, because some people skip certain parts of videos and they don't realize that. They're like, why is Architect's album from 2014 in this or whatever? So this is an album tier list. So it's the first time I've ever done anything like this. It's going to be long form content. I'm not going to over edit anything, because the last video I just got sick of editing. It was just taking so long. Really enjoyed it, but at the end of it I was like, do you know what? Let's just do something long form, because I know people like the kind of long form podcast style videos as well, and that's something that my channel's been kind of synonymous with. I think that's the correct word for that. So today we're going to be doing a tier list, and I have to give a big shout out to my boy Alex, who actually created the tier list and made the actual order. You'll see all in a minute. I haven't even looked at it yet, to be honest, but I believe he's put all the albums in order of which I actually reacted to them throughout the year. So obviously the first albums are going to be, you know, from January onwards, and so on, so on. So this year, as you've seen from the last video, was a big year for music for myself. I know a lot of the albums we listened to were not from 2022, but there was also some very, very good 2022 releases, you know, throughout the year that I've listened to as well. So excited to get into this one, lads. Like I said, it's all completely my opinion. Anyone who gets butthurt over it, like, come on, like, it's opinions at the end of the day, and I may not get it exactly right. It's very hard to pinpoint exactly what the #1 album of the year is, but I'm going to do my best, because I did do my best in the last video for the singles, and I stand by that selection, and I am glad that I put a lot of time into it. But this is going to be like me doing it in live time. So let's switch the camera on over to our tier list, and we'll just go through this. This is like the first time I've seen this tier list, so it's going to be new to me as well. So let me just switch this over and make sure everything's working okay. And as you can see, Alex has just made a tier list on this tiermaker.com. I believe it took quite a while, so I have to give massive props to Alex for doing this. But as you can see already, this is in order of which I've actually listened to them throughout the year. So what we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 28, 32. My math is going to be exposed here. No, that's wrong. Anyway, it's about 50 something albums, and you can see that the last one we have is the latest one, which was Architects Lost Forever, Lost Together. So yeah, lads, I mean, I don't really know where to start. I think we should start from, you know, in order of when I actually listened. So Alex did S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, D, and need to re-listen. So I think that's actually like a good way. I didn't tell him to do this at all. He just kind of put it together. So again, shout out to Alex for doing this. So we'll start from Nothing by Meshuggah, which, that's not the first album I heard this year, was it? Maybe it was. Jeez, that was a long time ago. That doesn't feel like... Is that really the first album that I listened to in 2022? Wow. Anyway, so Alex has also been a legend that included Rotoscope, which was an EP that I listened to. That's not actually available on YouTube. It is on Patreon, because I think... Did it get blocked? I can't remember. No, I think I just put it... I wasn't massively happy with the video. I just don't know what it was. I just didn't put it on YouTube, so it's just exclusive on Patreon. So if anyone does want to see that, it's on Patreon. It was just a short video that I just kind of wasn't planning on doing. But then also Era got copyright claimed as well, and it was actually nothing to do... I'm squeaking. Oh, wow. Starting off the year with squeaks and stutters, you know, starting as we mean to go on. But anyway, Era, their self-titled album Era, which is also not on YouTube because that got blocked. Nothing to do with Era's label. Because I was actually speaking to JT KV from Era, and he basically said it shouldn't be anything to do with them. So I looked into the actual block itself, and it was because I used a 10-second segment from Tool's Vicarious, I think it was, because this part of Era's track sounded like some of Tool's music. So I played like a 10-second snippet in the video, and the whole video got blocked because of a 10-second snippet from a band that had nothing to do with the video. So the video had been up for a few days. It had like 5,000 views. And I just decided, you know what? I'm just going to leave it on Patreon. Maybe someday I'll re-upload it, just for anyone who hasn't seen it yet. But yeah, so that's really the only exceptions. Everything else should be on YouTube, or at least the highlight videos on YouTube. So we'll just get into this one, lads. And again, I'm going to place them like maybe very quickly, and then we'll start to go into the other. So obviously if something is in S tier, we're going to, you know, categorize them by whichever album is furthest to the left is going to be like the best album I've heard all year, which is going to be very hard. And then anything is over here is basically the least or the worst. So it's from best to worst. You guys know how tier lists work. I don't need to explain this. So Meshuggah, Nothing. God, let me just pull Spotify up here as well so I can have a look. Meshuggah, Nothing. Let's get this up here. So Rational Gaze is on that already. Nothing by Meshuggah. Let me see if I can actually just show this whole screen so I don't have to keep. Let's do a. Can I just do a window instead of? Yeah, I can. Hold on. Probably should have done all this before, but look, we're here now. Window capture, and I'll do make source visible. Okay. Is that working? Okay, right. That's fine. Perfect. Make this full. Not sure why it's not fully going in, but look, it will have to do for the moment. And then we need to move me back up here. Again, this is not what I intended this to be, but look, it is what it is. Video capture device. There's me again. Hello. So this is Nothing by Meshuggah, and as you can see, there is some big albums on this. Let me just make sure that we can. Wait, why is this not working? For fuck's sake. Window capture. Let's turn this off. Why is it not? Oh. Okay, let's see if I go to Spotify. Nope, it's still not working. It needs to be screen capture. That's why I'm stupid. Okay. Well, this is not very professional. But look, it happens. New screen. How do I capture the screen? Display capture. That's what we want. Display capture. And then this can go here. Perfect. Automatic. Bang. Okay, so this is what we want. Yes, so now I can move between the two. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I'm not even going to cut that out. Or maybe I will. I don't know. Anyway, so this is Meshuggah's Nothing, which again, I'm surprised that this was the first album of the year. I don't know if that's actually correct, but I'm going to put my faith in Alex. We definitely listened to it in 2022, so that's all that matters. What is this going into? Look, I'll throw it into, for the moment, I'm going to throw it into B. I'll just leave it there because we can go back and mix all this around. So Meshuggah, Immutable is up next, which again, do we do 2 Meshuggah albums back to back? Maybe we, oh yeah, but you know, because Immutable came out like early in the year and I wanted to get like some Meshuggah content out before that because I wanted to just catch up. So that was obviously the reason behind that. So Meshuggah, Immutable. That is going to go into, let me see, where are we going to put this? Broken Cog, Abysmal Eye, Light the Shortening Fuse. I had Light the Shortening Fuse as, that was in my top tracks. And to be honest, I had the Abysmal Eye at like number 21. But I'll be honest, I had the video fully made. And number 21 on the list, I believe, was Periphery Look as a Constant. But last minute that got blocked. So I had to include a new track in it. And I was just so far beyond caring about doing another edit for that video because I just already worked so much on it that I just said, you know what? I think I'm going to just include the Abysmal Eye. I'll just throw it in. Like, it's a good track, but I probably would have had Ligature Marks over that, and it definitely would have been at 21. So just a word of warning for that video. The order on 1 or 2 tracks is probably not exactly correct, but because of copyright, it just fucked everything. So this one, I'll say, you know what, I'm going to put nothing down in C, because I think Immutable maybe is a high B. I don't think it's A. I don't think it's enough to be A. Maybe with a few more listens, it might get there. But In Stasis by Monuments is A. I don't think it has enough to be S, but it's definitely one of the most underrated, underappreciated albums of this year. I've seen a good few like different lists from people who are doing like best tracks of the year and best albums of the year, and I just don't think this album is getting enough credit. Like, a lot of people seem to be, you know, sharing that same view, that they're saying, why is In Stasis by Monuments not getting that much credit? And I actually agree. I had 2 tracks from In Stasis on my, you know, top list, and they were quite a high place as well. I had Cardinal Red, which I think was in the top 20, and I had Opiate as well, which was like top 30, I believe, or something along those lines, maybe like 35, in and around that region. So still 2 tracks, and there is some good tracks on it as well. Overall, the album's very, very good. But standout tracks, like Lavos is out so long. Like, this came out so long before the album that it doesn't even feel like it's on the album. I think they just kind of included it on the album, but that track is so good as well. That was one of the first tracks I learned to play on the guitar. Well, not, Jesus, I'm not that good, but I learned some of the riffs on that album, or on Lavos. That was one of the more accessible riffs. Still a very hard riff to play, but it was the first time I kind of learned the riff that like felt somewhat technical, and I was buzzing with that. So that album does hold a special place in my heart. But again, Lavos doesn't really feel like it's on this album. It just feels like a different time. So anyway, so for the moment, we'll leave that in A. And Obsidian now, this is, we're really getting into the thick of it straight away. There's some big albums coming up here. So I'm going to throw Obsidian straight into S tier, okay? Now, we'll rearrange all this. This will get more interesting when albums start to, what's the word I'm looking for here? When we start to get a few albums across the list, that's when it gets really hard to like pick which one I actually prefer. And that's where you guys will get some insight into, you know, which albums were actually my favorite albums of the year. Alien, I'll say B for the moment. I wouldn't, I don't know. I struggled with Alien a little bit because I'd come from listening to Obsidian. Alien is a great album by Northlane, but I just haven't gone back to it half as much as with Obsidian. Really cool album, but I think it maybe if I had heard Alien first and then Obsidian, it would probably have a lot more value to me, but I just kind of have a mental block with it. The Dark Pool, I mean, goes without saying, like, I think the Dark Pool had 3 or 4 mentions in my top 50 tracks, and Human was number 3 on the list, so no questions asked there. That album, to be honest, could have like a good few, let me see, Thornhill. That album could have a good few tracks in the top 10. Like, Views from the Sun was in my top 10. Human was in my top 10. Coven could have been like top 20, I'd say, but there was so many different tracks, and I didn't want to overdo the list with like certain bands. Red Summer is so underappreciated as well. There was a lot of people in the comments like were praising the fact that I mentioned some of these tracks because they just don't get enough credit. Where We Go When We Die is another one that was in the top 20. So I mean, this album is beautiful. I love it so much, and it was the first introduction I ever had to anything by Thornhill. So yeah, that album holds a special place in my heart, so it is undoubtedly in here. We won't arrange this just yet. We'll start to do all this, so just ignore the fact that these are, you know, in order right now. I'm not saying Obsidian is in any way better than the Dark Pool, but look, we'll just leave them there for the moment. Now, Meshuggah, The Violent Sleep of Reason. To be honest, I'd say it probably needs a re-listen. It's not one of them that's gonna come back. I've not gone back to it much. It could probably fall into like here, because anything that's needs a re-listen is basically it wasn't good enough for me to kind of keep going back to, or I just didn't enjoy it enough to go back to. So yeah. Now, Loathe, I let it in and it took everything. Again, I'm kind of just trying to quickly go through all these ones because we've got so many, and obviously I need to really spend some time on figuring out which ones are actually the best and ordering them properly when we get them all out. So I let it in and it took everything is, oh man, is it S or A? It's either like the top A or like I'd say lower S. So for the moment, just to be controversial, I'm gonna put it high A, okay? Oh god, I don't know. I really liked that album when it first came out. Okay, Thornhill Heroin is gonna be a controversial one because I know a lot of people like this album after a few listens. A lot of people don't like this album, so I think either way I'm gonna get like some weird feedback from this one, but again, it's just my personal thoughts on this one. I think compared to, if this was like a direct comparison between the Dark Pool and Heroin, I think this goes in D, because I just think they're leagues apart in terms of replay value, in terms of creativity, like unique sound. I think I watched Metal Burb's video on biggest disappointments of the year, I think, or something like that, and obviously I knew Thornhill's Heroin was going to be in it because I just know so many people didn't enjoy that one. So I agreed with a lot of Metal Burb's takes, and he obviously touched on the fact that it sounds like it's trying too hard to be like an almost nostalgic sound. It does sound like it's kind of ripping Deftones to a certain extent, and that's not a bad thing because obviously Deftones are amazing, but it almost just tried too hard, I think. So I'll put it low B. I think it's a low B. This looks really disrespectful putting this beside Alien, so again, we'll have to change all this around because there's no way that these two are even like considered close enough. But actually, do you know what? This has to go C. It's got to be, it's going to go ahead of... yeah, okay, just for the moment, like this album has so many good tracks, and I'm already probably pissing people off here. No questions asked. This is up there. Just, again, we'll move all this around, but there's absolutely no questions that Mestaden Undervatten by Valjarta is best here, no doubt in my mind. Rotoscope needs a re-listen, but I'd say it's probably like C or D. I just didn't really fuck with it that much when I first came out. I'm actually going to see Spirit Box next summer as well. I just didn't really fuck with Rotoscope. I liked their album, their most recent album. Obviously, this is one of their EPs, but I liked the Spirit Box album. What was that called? I can't remember. But I liked that. There was some good tracks on that. But just Rotoscope, I haven't gone back to it. It needs a re-listen. Era, self-titled, I think is A. I don't think it's S. Very good album. I think it falls into A. So we'll leave that there for the moment. I don't know exactly where that's going to fall. Parhesia by Animals as Leaders is, like, from a technical standpoint, it goes S, but from an overall album that I'd like to listen to again, I'd say it kind of needs a re-listen, but I also don't want to listen to it because I couldn't be arsed. I'd say, like, it feels really disrespectful putting Alien here. I'm going to do Aliens a low A just for the moment. I'll put this here. It's got to be C because I'd prefer to listen to this Immutable than this any day of the week. So I'll leave that there. Again, not disputing the technical value of that album, but just from a replay value album standpoint, I just don't think I'd really like to listen to it. It has one really cool track in it. It just sounds like you're being teleported through the Matrix. So that's like, there's some cool parts on it, but yeah. Whitechapel Kin has actually got some like a good, I really like the track, what's it called? I remember being kind of impressed by that album because it was like my first step into like some deathcore. And I was kind of like, let's try some of this. So I really like History is Silent. Do you know what? Let me make sure I have my audio and everything. Is the music going to play if I play this? Let me just make sure I have everything set up correctly. Orphan. Yeah. I remember really fucking with this track. My darker thoughts are born again. Yeah, this is the one track that I've gone back to. Other than that, and look, this is the only one I actually liked at the time as well. So, I mean, that kind of speaks to the nature of that album. It just didn't really click with me that much. Maybe I need to re-listen to it. So, do you know what? I think that's probably fair to put it into re-listen. But for now, I'd say it would fall into like C, behind Parhesia. Or maybe, no, it would go ahead of Parhesia because Parhesia just is kind of like exhausting to listen to because of how technical it is. It's like, all right, okay, I get it. I'd say need to re-listen. We'll go back and maybe change that because I know it's a bit of a cop-out to say need to re-listen, but at the same time, like, there's a lot of albums here that I've obviously gone through and would probably need to re-listen because you can only listen to so much music in a year. Periphery P2, I'd say straight away, no questions asked, it's in the A tier. Oh, actually, do you know, I think it's high. It has some very good tracks on it, like really good tracks. Look as a Constant, like I mentioned, was in my top 10 or top 20. Or maybe like 21. It was definitely my top 50 of the year. But other than that, like, I mean, the intro tracks to it, or was it like Mesomoon or what's it called? Periphery. This track here, like like I love the intro. I love that intro. Real kind of vibey, cool intro. Actually, I'm gonna get copyrighted to bits if I even play 2 seconds of this. Facepalm Mute was good. I just think like Make Total Destroy I'd already heard, so maybe it kind of lost a bit of its value in that regard. Look as a Constant's like the only thing that's really sticking out to me there. I know Ragnarok's a pretty cool track as well. I just think as an album overall, it just is like kind of maybe low. It's either low A or very high B. I put it over. I don't know if I'd listen to it over Immutable actually. Look, we'll rearrange all this soon. Silent Planet, Iridescent, again an album that had like a good few tracks, maybe 1 or 2 tracks in the top like 25 I think. So I would say Iridescent is better than Era, but it's not better than In Stasis. Yeah, I'd say that's probably fair. This album, incredible. God, it feels bad to put this here. It definitely isn't B. I'd say it's A as well. It's low A for me. This is Lost in the Status. What? It's not. It's After the Burial. And it is... What's the name of this album? Wait, why can't I remember the name? Lost in the Status. After the Burial. What's the name of this album? I can't remember. Dig Deep. That's the one. Yeah, that album is amazing. I've gone back to certain tracks. Not Lost in the Static was supposed to be in my top tracks as well, but copyright issues didn't allow for it. So I think it does sound a bit repetitive is the only thing that kind of like loses points. I think it has the ability to be S tier, to be honest. It's like an S tier. It feels like an S tier album, but I just don't think it is. I don't know what it is about that album. It's so good and it's non-stop chaos, but it does feel a little bit samey for like... It doesn't feel, I don't know, I don't want to say creative enough. I don't know, I love that album, don't get me wrong. I just don't think it has enough to be S tier, but it does kind of feel like some of the tracks in it are so S tier. It has S tier tracks, but I don't think it's an S tier album, put it that way. Singularity, Northlane needs a re-listen. Again, a cop-out, but at the time, I think when I first heard it, it probably goes like C tier. We've no D tiers at the moment yet, so I'm going to have to like start shafting some albums. So needs a re-listen is 100%. A lot of people love this album, but I think after hearing Alien and Obsidian, I kind of heard everything that I want to hear from Northlane. Obviously, I'd be happy to be proven wrong, but a lot of people gave this album a lot of credit, and I listened to it, and I just didn't really love it because I've just been so used to like the sound that Marcus was able to produce on Alien and Obsidian. So yeah. Moving on to the first, is this the first EP feature on the list? There's been no other EPs from what I can see on the list. Yeah, so this is the first EP, so a little bit different criteria wise for like, you know, rating EPs and albums because it's so short, but it goes without saying this is just right up there. It is S tier undoubtedly. Spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't watched the top 50 tracks that I heard this year. Number 15 I believe was The Sun Sleeps, and my number 1 track of 2022 that I've heard is As If It Never Was by Invent Anime. So obviously both of those tracks, so 2 tracks from that EP, both making it to the top 15, and then number 1 being As If It Never Was, my favorite track that I've heard all year. So it goes without saying it's S tier, but again, it's only an EP, so yeah. Polaris, Pray for Rain, man, we had some banging albums just back to back to back. We were really on a roll. And I can see here we had some kind of like, it kind of went a little bit downhill, but then we picked it up again. It's just kind of funny when you actually see it in order, you know, you can just see like, right, okay, this is how we work this year. So Polaris, Pray for Rain is honestly an album that I would say needs a re-listen. It does definitely need a re-listen, okay, but I'm not going to cop, you know, I'll put anything that I feel needs a re-listen into the needs a re-listen, and then I'll kind of maybe go back and order it this way, because I think this can be like a potential list. So this, you know, in terms of like the overall potential that I think it has after hearing it a few more times, but I still think it needs a re-listen. So I'll leave Pray for Rain there. I have obviously included the sorry, this isn't Pray for Rain is the name of the single on it. It's The Death of Me, I think. Polaris, The Death of Me, and then Pray for Rain is the single that I had in my top 50 from Polaris. So that track in itself has really grown on me, but overall when I first heard that album I wasn't massively impressed, and like a lot of people were like, really, you know, like, Drew, you'll love Polaris, and I think maybe that kind of set it up to be a little bit of a disappointment because the hype was so real. But when I look at this list, like, I actually really like Masochist. Vagabond is so catchy. Hypermania is also good. Pray for Rain is class. So like, to be fair, I just need to listen to it a few more times, so I will stick it into the needs a re-listen for the moment. And then we are back to our good old friend Valjarta, who you know, between Valjarta and Humanity's Last Breath, they just had like 10 features on the top 50. Like, it was really just their year, to be fair. Although they didn't grab the top 10 spots, I think overall consistency throughout the list, you know, you've got to say, you really have to tip your hat to how good Valjarta and Humanity's Last Breath are. So, this is... what's the name of this album again? Valjarta. This one is Mastadin, the Forte version. So, this one, oh god, I would say this is high A. Like, singles wise, it's fucking phenomenal. I had to kind of re-listen to a few albums just to kind of memorize myself before I did this. Shadow, Dagger, cracking tracks. Traces is pretty cool if I remember correctly. All These Feelings is disgusting. When No One Walks You is pretty cool, and it leads really well into All These Feelings, but I just think, like, compared to Mustad Under Vatten, again, it's a little bit of like bias because that was the first album I'd heard by them, being Mustad Under Vatten. Going from that to Mustadin didn't feel like much of a drop down, but it just, I'd already gotten used to the sound, and it wasn't a shock to me when I heard the second one. Obviously the crossover between the different nuanced sounds that they, you know, bring into Mustadin Under Vatten that were included in Mustadin like 10 years prior is really cool. And I would have loved to maybe have heard Mustadin first and then hear Mustadin Under Vatten to hear how their sound progressed, but also how they like paid homage to the original album as well. So I would say it's high A. I don't think it's S tier, but it's definitely like just on the brink of being S tier. But obviously, without a doubt, Mustadin Under Vatten is S tier, no doubt. And then this is P3 by Periphery. So Periphery's second intro to the list. And again, this was blocked on YouTube because Periphery's label are like the most awkward label to get around. I don't know if this is... I want to put it like here, but I don't think these are close. I don't think I probably need to re-listen to this one as well, to be honest with you. But I think I'd heard like some of the better tracks on that album already. And again, it just kind of like, it just feels hard to... Like, I'd heard Marigold. Actually, that was the only one I'd actually heard, to be fair. Yeah, I think I need to re-listen to this because none of these tracks are really like properly sticking out to me. Obviously, Marigold is an obvious one. Habitual Line Stepper and Flatline, I'm pretty sure, are really good. This one was heavy. If I can remember, I really haven't gone back to it, so it's got to fall into here for the time being. And obviously, we'll go back and we'll rearrange all this as well. So, Valde, wow, another unbelievable album. See, I can see their self-titled album here, and I don't think it's even close between them. But this has so many good singles. I actually do need to re-listen to this, but I know it was an incredible album. So I think I'm gonna go like in here. It's not S tier for me. I think it's A, like high A. Better. This is Current's The Way It Ends, and Current's first inclusion on the list. Oh man, I think a lot of people are going to think this is S for me. Oh god, I'm kind of doubting myself here. Is The Way It Ends S tier? After the multiple listens I've had to it, is it S tier? Ah, it just is, isn't it? Yeah, like, yeah, it really is. Monsters, Let Me Leave, Second Skin, How I Fall Apart, Better Days as the outro. The intro is so fucking intense. Flagged, like, every track on this is good. Yeah, it's S tier. Okay, like, I'm sorry for even doubting this is S tier. It's S tier 100%. Rivers of Nihil, or Nile. What's the name of this album again? Rivers of Nile. I can't remember the name of this album, which is never a good sign. Where Else, Know My Name, probably need to re-listen. Do I want to re-listen to it? Not really. Didn't really love that album, not gonna lie. So, I will put it in... Oh, people are gonna hate me for this. I'm putting it in D. I'm putting it in D for now. If I look at these albums, which I'd prefer to listen to again, if I was like going to my head and I had to listen to an album, like, it's this order so far. Like, obviously forget the needs to re-listen, because I do need to re-listen to these. Rivers of Nihil, I probably would need to re-listen to it, but I just think right now, if I wasn't allowed another opportunity to listen to an album again to really get an idea of if I fuck with it or not, I think like the least exciting album to me on this list, or at least up there, is this album here, which is gonna hurt a lot of people, and I'm sorry, but it's just honesty. That's just how my brain is at the moment. And this is Electric Callboy Techno, which just feels like a fun album. It was fun to do. I wouldn't go back to it at all. Just doesn't feel like a need. It was kind of like one of them fun albums. Everything in the album, yes, sounds really cool. It's cool electronic sound. It's having a lot of fun. It's got big breakdowns, but everything that I've just mentioned, I can get in some shape or form from other bands, and the meme sound of it is just, when it's too memey, which it actually wasn't as like meme filled as I thought it would be, it kind of loses its it just doesn't, it doesn't feel like a very serious album. Again, it has some good tracks on it, and it's doing exactly what it says in the tin. It's fun, and I had a good time reacting to it, but it's just like, yeah, it's the for me anyway. Obviously other people can have your opinions, but again, it's just an opinions game, so don't jump down my throat, please. Alpha Wolf, A Quiet Place to Die. I've listened to some of the singles again, and obviously I had Akudama, which was the number 50 song of the year that I had, and just look, I mean, the story in it was really good. I actually got quite emotional at the end of the album because of the story overall, so I think that does like bring it up a few points, but I think it's quite short. It sounds a little repetitive. Some of the tracks do. Probably requires a re-listen, but again, I've never really like found myself going back to it and wanting to re-listen to it much. I really enjoyed when I first listened, but it just never really got me. So I would say it's probably B, because it does have some good tracks on it, to be fair. I think there's like 60 Centimeters of Steel on that album, which again I probably need to re-listen to, but a lot of people love that track, and I know it's popular. And obviously Akudama is a great track, very unique sound, very like kind of in your face sound, you know, real like rebellious. So I do like that, but I just don't think it goes much higher than a B. The Contortionist Language, I don't have much to say. This album had so much hype. I didn't really fuck with it. I probably need to re-listen to it, but I'm just going to throw it C. So we'll leave it there for the moment. Darko Oni, and they actually have a new project that was released yesterday, I think. So I don't even know if I'm going to do this new project. I just don't know. Yeah, maybe if I do it, you'll see the reason why. I'll explain that. But if not, Oni is like C, low C. I just don't care for that album. I remember it being pretty cool, but like in the grand scheme of things, when I really think back to it, it was just like, I felt like their self-titled album was insane. This one was just, it just felt like I kind of knew what was coming every step of the way. It was like, oh, big breakdown. Like, it was very Darko, which is obviously very unique, but I just felt like I'd heard it all before. Nothing really surprised me. So I think that goes low C. Holy Hell by Architects, I think is a high A for the moment. I don't think it's quite S tier right now. I think it's high A. Slipknot, this one, I can't remember the name of this. It just goes to show it's C. I can't remember S. I didn't really like that album. Gojira, The Way of All Flesh. Again, a lot of the singles I'd heard on this. I'd heard a lot of tracks on this. So I think this falls to me personally. I know a lot of people are going to hate on this because it's Gojira. I would say it's behind Immutable on B. Make Them Suffer with their album. Make Them, I can't even remember the name, which again is never a good sign for where it's going to place on this list. How to Survive a Funeral, which again was kind of similar to the way in which I looked at Polaris with The Death of Me. It had so much hype going into it, and then when it came down to it, I just didn't really like it that much. Had some good singles on it again, and I know a lot of people love this band from like a metalcore standpoint. A lot of people have this as like their number one metalcore band. And they did actually bring out Doom Switch, which was the single that they released this year with the new vocalist Alex Reed. And I really liked that single. And to be honest, that should have been in the top 50. I probably should have included that. It probably would fall into the top 50 singles I heard this year. It wouldn't be very high, but someone pointed it out to me and I just forgot to put it in. But I think I need to give these guys another chance because I know they do have talent based on the single. I obviously really like the single. I don't really like the old vocalist sound. I've kind of heard like tracks off of this album after re-listening to it, and I just don't know. So I think to be honest, I think it needs a few more re-listens from me. Again, it feels like a cop out doing this, but it's just honest. Like I don't want to give I just don't think it falls into like a certain category because I haven't like made a full enough judgment on it yet. So, Animals as Leaders with what is the name of this album? I've done so many albums this year, man. Animals as Leaders. The Joy of Motion. Again, great album. It's like with anything Animals as Leaders, like it almost feels disrespectful to not really commend how technical these guys are and how talented they are. But from like a re-listen standpoint, I just don't really care for their music that much. I really like Tooth and Claw, which was included on the best tracks I heard this year, which was on this album. So that's got to be commended to a certain extent. So I would say this goes the same as Parhesia, which is obviously this one here. But I think because the fact that it even made a track in the top 50 songs that I heard this year, by default, it has to jump up a few spots. I think it would go ahead of The Contortionist. Would I like to listen to this more than The Contortionist? Again, yes. I really like Language. The intro to Language is beautiful, but I just think the rest of the album kind of falls flat for me. And this is between The Buried in Me next, with another controversial take. We had a few in a row. I remember this is kind of like bringing me back down memory lane and like really bringing me back to segments of this year where I was just like, fucking hell, like I'm back to back shitting on albums here that are like really, you know, respected in the scene. So this was Parallax 2, The Future Sequence. And although it did have some really cool moments and like that really weird Between the Buried and Me sound that's almost like Carnival like inspired, like it sounds very cinematic, it's very cool, but in terms of wanting to listen to it again, it's got to fall into the C tier again, because it's not D. Like I'd probably listen to this before I listened to Rivers and Oil. Rivers and Oil is too much blast beats and just too much chaos, and I didn't really like it that much. Do you know what? Slipknot's going back down here. I'm sorry. Darko Oni, I'd probably listen to that just purely because it's just chaos, and I like the chaos that this provides more than I like the chaos that like this really traditional deathcore provides. So yeah, I'll put it here for the moment, and we'll go back to it. Now, this is Currents with their album. Again, I can't remember the name. I'm going to say that this one probably needs a few listens. Another Life is on this album, I know that for sure. This is The Place I Feel Safest. This is this album, so let me just take this. So The Place I Feel Safest by Currents is gotta be... I think it... See, I know this album's absolutely loved by a lot of people, but I was a little bit disappointed by it after hearing Better Days. Or not Better Days, The Way It Ends. So I would say that this falls into... For me, right now, it's B. Like high B. I would put it over Immutable. 100%. It does have some really good tracks, but it also kind of falls into I'd need to listen to it again. Right now. I will obviously listen to it again. Another Life was in the top tracks that I heard this year. I think it was like mid-30s. Incredible track. Lost my mind to that a little bit. I think the album started to grow. I remember like being a little bit disappointed at the start, and I feel like it did kind of get better and better as it went on. So right now my heart tells me it's like high B. It doesn't feel like it's in this territory of like Alien era, After the Burials album, which again I forget the name of, Dig Deep, Iridescent by Silent Planet, In Stasis by Monuments, Loathe, I Let It In, Valde by Humanity's Last Breath, Holy Hell by Architects, and then Mastadin by Valjarta. It doesn't feel like it fits into the same category as them. Not far off, but yeah. It's also a shit album cover. I really don't like that album cover. It just looks so boring. There's actually a few really bad album covers here. Like Holy Hell by Architects have some shit album covers. Can we just all agree on that? Love the band. Great fucking band. Really getting into them a lot more recently. Maybe there's some like underlying meaning behind all this, but like that is a shit album cover. It's just boring. But that's something for another day, okay? We're not going to go into that. Again, another pretty shit album cover. I think up close, this is pretty cool because you can kind of see the detail, but looking at it from a distance, it's just shit. Like there's some, look how grey a lot of these albums are. Just horrible looking. Anyway, I know it doesn't have to be all color because some of the colorful ones are disgusting. Like Meshuggah's Nothing, I know it's an older one. That's a horrible looking album. This sucks. The Joy Emotion is horrible. Gojira's one, it looks like a fucking child drew a skeleton in school and was like, yeah, I'll use that as the album cover. Darko's one's pretty cool. I like that kind of abstract artwork. Between the Buried and Me is pretty cool. Slipknot's one is... What the fuck is that? I don't know. I feel like I shit on Slipknot or not. Do you know what? The Way It Ends is also a shit album cover. I like the graphic moving design of like the bodies falling into the pit, or not the pit, the like whirlpool that they have on the album cover. That's pretty cool when it's animated, but I think as an album cover, it's just a bit... I don't really like it. I know, obviously, this album The Place I Feel Safest is like paying homage to, or sorry, the way it ends is paying homage via the album cover to The Place I Feel Safest. It's similar design in the sense that it's like the cliff and he's watching it from a distance of this person jumping off here. So that's pretty cool. But it doesn't excuse the fact that it's just still a pretty ugly, both ugly albums. Anyway, we're going off topic here. This is Valjarta, and I can't remember the name. We really just went some pretty standard, average albums back to back. Again, this is an EP that we did, Thousands of Evils. And I don't know. I don't remember any of the tracks off this, to be honest. So it's probably a re-listen, which is again a cop-out, but I think it's like a C or B. No, it's not B. It's definitely not B. I think it falls C, but for now it needs a re-listen. Invent Animate, Greyview, and their second time that they featured on, well, it's not like a feature list, it's just the albums I've done, but it's the second album that I've done by these guys, or the first album, because obviously The Sun Sleeps is an EP. I feel like their sound is S tier, like just across the board their sound is S tier, but I don't think this album falls, like just from my own love and the albums that I've really gone back to, this album literally made me cry like twice in the first two tracks. Let me rephrase that, because the album itself didn't necessarily, it wasn't like it was the two tracks at the start made me cry, but I don't think the album making me cry, that makes it sound like it should be S tier, because it just was able to bring that emotion out of me. I would say this is a high A. I'd put it at like the top A spot. Great singles on it, unbelievable, overall album feel is amazing, but I just don't think it has it. Like this list up top is like, these are close to my heart. And this is Alt with, is it Paralyzed? No, that's a single on it. The Seed of Self-Destruction. Paralyzed was the only, no, sorry, it's not it. One sec. It's, wait, what? Did I do the Deep Blue Silent in the same session? Pretty sure I did. The Deep Blue Silent, Paralyzed, The Seed of Self-Destruction. Wait, hold on. Which ones did I do? I did two in the same listen. Wait. Let me pull this over here real quick. Oh, look, it's literally right here. So this was The Seed of Self-Destruction. And where's the one with the kid diving into the water? Oh, here we go. Sorry. Dark Waters. So I did Dark Waters and The Seed of Self-Destruction. Dark Waters, to be honest, I couldn't name a single track off that. I couldn't call out the name of them. Maybe ignorance from my part, but it's just right now. Dark Waters goes like, need to re-listen. And this probably B. I'd say B. Paralyzed, really good track. Other than that, I didn't really fuck with it that much. Architects. Oh boy. Architects with, what's the name of this one? I'm so bad at remembering names. There's been so many, I'm sorry. Architects with their most recent album, which was The Classic Symptoms of a Broken Spirit. Again, I mean, I get it's like a minimalistic album cover, but it's just a bit shit, isn't it? Like, come on. Anyway, I think maybe the album cover actually quite well summarizes this album. Just a bit minimalistic. Just a bit boring. So this album, although it does have some singles that I really like, one being Doom Scrolling, which did actually make the top 50 list as well, one of my favorite tracks of the year. It's low B. Oh, is it low B? No, because Heroin, I'd probably listen to that. It's gotta be C. Oh god, what would I prefer to listen to? I'd prefer to listen to Heroin over that. Yeah, 100%. Opeth, Blackwater Park. People are gonna hate on that. It's C. Don't like that album. I don't hate it, but I just yeah. Slice the Cake. Oh man, this has the potential to be S tier, but I just don't think it is. I think it's a very high A again. Concept wise, I absolutely love it. Feels amazing to listen to. I would say here for the moment. This is Bro Job. It's almost disrespectful to put this like ahead of certain albums. It's better than Slipknot's album. I'd listen to this over Slipknot's album because I actually got some joy out of listening to it. And it's gotta fall right beside Eskimo Callboy. I think just because I laughed for a lot, it's ahead of Eskimo Callboy with their album Techno. Yeah, obviously it's a meme album. Although it does slap, it has some really creative moments in it. It just would feel very, very... I'd be headhunted if I was to put this like in here somewhere. Over like... Imagine putting that over Animals as Leaders. Like, come on, I'd get rinsed. Polyphia. And this is actually another band that I probably would have had Chimera. The track that they did with that stupid pop feature that ruined the end of the track. I was going to put that in, but I felt like so strongly with the pop feature at the end of it, which really annoyed me. And I decided to take it out and replace it with something else. But that track, the technical standpoint, the guitars and everything are really good. But the album overall, Remember That You Will Die, again, one of the ugliest album covers I've ever seen. Really horrible looking album cover. Probably one of the ugliest on the list. It just looks shit. It doesn't really look like it represents their sound at all. Their sound, to me, should have like an album cover that looks something like Parrhesia by Animals as Leaders. Like, that's the kind of like elegant, like royal feel that I get from listening to Polyphia. Apart from all the bullshit pop, but if I'm listening to the instrumental tracks, they should have like an album cover like The Death of Me by Polaris, or something like Kane, or something like Alt's cover here for Dark Waters, or even like Eras, like kind of like modern, elegant, cool looking digital sounds. Like, it just, that is shit. Who comes up with these art covers? Anyway, sorry, I'm ranting a lot about the art covers. But music wise, where does this fall? Again, it's kind of similar to Animals as Leaders in the sense that like it's hard to look past the technicalities. It feels like it should be high based on like how technical they are and how good they are. But as an album that I'd like to listen to over and over again, if I had to listen to like, you know, these in order, I'd say C for me. Just, I think the pop features and everything felt very selloutish. I'm not saying again, like I don't know if that was their intention to kind of really like, but it just felt like it. I get they've obviously done amazing things for metal and they will continue to do so going forward because they are so technical and they bring in a lot of different audiences. But I think they're that technical that they don't need those features that they brought in. I think that the idea behind the features is to like bring in that pop audience to like start to appreciate metal, and like not even just metal, because they aren't really metal at all, are they? They obviously have metal tracks, like metal elements, like in Chimera, and then with the Chino Moreno feature. But I think they're so good that you just need, like, anyone who's not into metal or music, guitars, anything like that would be like, it's almost hard to not become a fan when you see how technical they are and how good, like, even just the visual aspect of them playing is. I just think the set, it just felt sellout. That's where it becomes like, it feels like a sellout, because they didn't need to have those features. The features did nothing for the tracks, in my opinion. Like that ABC song makes me want to punch a hole in my wall. I hate it so much. It's so annoying. The vocal feature on it is shit. It just annoys me so much. Again, apologies if I'm pissing people off, but look, who cares? Yeah, that's Remember That You Will Die. It's a C on the list for me. Maybe higher than some of these, but we'll come back to that. Landmarks, probably need to re-listen. Didn't really fuck with it. This is Landmarks Lost in the Waves, or Lost in a Wave. I can't remember which one, because one of the singles has like the same name but not exactly the same. Brand of Sacrifice. Brand of Sacrifice with their album. Is it Life Bloom? Life Bloom, I think. Life Blood. And then one of the tracks is Life Bloom, I believe. No, I'm wrong. Anyway, Life Blood is the name of this album. And good album, man. Good album. I actually don't think I included any of Brand of Sacrifice on the top 50 tracks, which probably is a little bit of a unfair outcome for them, because they did have some good tracks. But I think overall it was a good album. It was a solid album. I would say B. I would say it's probably had a periphery right there. I'd say B, right in the middle there. Currents with an EP, which again I can't remember the name of, so apologies for that. Currents and their I Let the Devil In EP, and again I couldn't actually tell you. The Rope was pretty cool. Forever Marked, I'm pretty sure was good, but again I just don't really remember much of it. So for now, because I love Currents and I love their sound, I would say I need to re-listen, because I don't want to rate it here now. I could probably rate it quite low because I just don't remember, but I would like to listen to that again, because I know it definitely has potential and a lot of people like really vouch for that, and I trust the audience, I trust the people on Patreon, and across the YouTube comment section, this EP has always gotten a lot of praise. So I would definitely need to re-listen to that. Color Decay by The Devil Wears Prada. This one has grown on me so much. It's probably one of my most listened to albums at the moment in terms of, well, not full albums, but a lot of the singles on that are so catchy. I did kind of feel it was a little bit generic when I first heard it, but I think it just does that so well, so I can't really hate on it. So this is definitely high A for me right now. So we're actually onto the second layer of A's at the moment. So it's been a great fucking year for music. Silent Planet, with their second album that I reacted to, which Garrett Russell actually reached out to me regarding, which was pretty cool. When the End Began, which is a great album, but again, I haven't gone back to it much. Really good album. So I would say probably need to re-listen, because I do really like Silent Planet. Again, it's similar to like Currents and what I just said about I Let the Devil In. It's like, I know I really fuck with Silent Planet's sound, but I'd say it's high B. It's probably like, yeah, I think this actually perfectly, Currents and Silent Planet, these two albums here are like the two albums that I know I should probably like at some point down the line. I'd say Currents is probably ahead for the moment, and then Silent Planet falls in here right behind it. So yeah, they're very similar in the sense I do need to go back and listen to both of them, but I think for now I'm going to put them high B. Time Evaluator, How Fleeting, How Fragile, it's A, 100%. It's not S tier. It's not S tier. It is above Alien. I would say it's above Era because it's so unique. It reminds me of Altered State, so it immediately gets brownie points for that. It's also very fresh on my mind. It's one of the most recent albums we've done. Well, obviously there's like a few more after. Look how ugly all these covers are. Actually, no, I actually kind of like some of them, but these are just, it's just like an ugly line of shit. Like, that's a horrible album cover. Yeah, anyway, I would say this falls ahead of, you know what, In Stasis needs to be moved up here. In Stasis goes ahead of Valde. I think Valde drops back a little bit. Oh god, In Stasis is much higher. I think Color Decay here. Okay, we'll rearrange all this soon, but Time Evaluator for now is up here. Okay, it's in there somewhere. I need to figure it out. Oh god, this is, oh god, I literally titled the video, this is S tier Thal, but that is S tier Thal. Is it an S tier album overall? It's gotta be low S or like the highest A imaginable. It is one of the bountiest albums I've ever heard in my entire existence. Oh man, I lost my mind to that album. It's a high S. It's high S, 100%. Sea of Tragic Beasts by Fit for an Autopsy. Again, another kind of like venture into the world of deathcore for me. And even, oh god, where does this go? High B, high B, high B, high B. Do you know what? Maybe the lowest possible A, I'd say. I'll be nice for now. Matriarch, yeah, that's fair. B, low B. Meshuggah Kolos. There's gonna be a lot of people, Meshuggah fans, that like aren't too happy. I'd rather listen to Meshuggah over that. And Architects, Lost Together, or Lost Forever, Lost Together, or whatever order that is in, I can't remember, is probably right up there with Holy Hell. Maybe Holy Hell first, because I've just had more time to really like Holy Hell. And we still have to do, like, I think 2 more albums by Architects, and obviously All Our Gods Have Abandoned Us is that album that we'll be getting to probably next by Architects. And that one's apparently very, very gut-wrenching and very, very depressing, because obviously it's the whole Tom story behind it. So we will get to that. I have promised doing that video. But lads, this is our list right now. We let me just move me up a bit so you can see everything. I'll zoom out a bit. So this is how we have it at the moment. Let me make me a little bit smaller. So this is where it gets quite hard. This is obviously okay. Let me reorder the need to re-listen first. Polaris is definitely number one on that list. I'd say Currents because of how much I like that band. And I know they have the potential. And I trust your instincts. Make Them Suffer, I think, is probably here. Again, we're going from left to right for anyone who doesn't understand the tier lists. I would say maybe here. Maybe this. Meshuggah is probably at the end of the list, I'd say, in terms of need to re-listen. Like, I do need to re-listen to it just to remember what it sounds like. But I fuck with a lot of Meshuggah music, but I know when I don't fuck with it, you know what I mean? It's kind of weird. Singularity is like, I just didn't really fuck. I think I've gotten what I need out of North Lane. And I'll continue to enjoy experiencing their music going forward, but I just don't know. Singularity, I know I have to do Node as well, I think, is the other album, which people are telling me to do, but I'm kind of worried about doing the album because I don't want to like piss more people off. But anyway, the rest is just kind of hit or miss. Like, it could be this one, it could be like this, I don't really know. Lost in the Wave, I just can't get around my head around the lead vocalist. His voice kind of goes through my head a bit, so that could be like anywhere down here. It's kind of irrelevant when you get down to this point, but need to re-listen is definitely Polaris first, Current second, Make Them Suffer, Periphery because I love Periphery. Periphery are great. They hold a special place in my heart. They've got to be fourth. Kin, because I really, really like the track we went through. I can't remember what it's called. History is Silent, I think. Really like that track. So I will absolutely be giving that a listen at some point, just to kind of refresh my mind. I do remember kind of liking it, but maybe I'll like it a little bit more now because I've gone through a few more deathcore albums, which we will discuss in a few. Spirit Box, again, it's an EP. It's a short one. I could probably listen to it like after this just to kind of refresh my memory, but it just didn't blow me away. And let's move on to D. I don't think we're changing much here. Like, the real chopping and changing comes up here. Like, all of this is kind of like categorized just to be categorized for the sake of categorizing. But Slipknot, it's just D, man. It's just, I think they've had such a fall from grace. That kind of pisses me off. And their fans piss me off a lot as well. So that goes down here. Nah, like, honestly, that's not even me just being bitter about like people who are annoying Slipknot fans. Like, I'm literally sorry about that. I am a Slipknot fan. Like, literally, my mug color is this. You see that? I'm an official Slipknot fan. 100%. I've seen them live. I've had a lot of fun listening to them over the years. But honesty is honesty, and that new album sucks. Anyway, so Techno by Electric Call. Yeah, this is not much change in here. If we're criteriorizing, if the criteria is what I'd like to listen to again, or what I feel like I'd need, no, because this is need to listen to again. This is basically what I'd like to listen to again. If I had to listen to one album, the order in which I would choose, I would probably listen to this before Rivers and Oil, and this, like, I wouldn't even want to listen to these again because it's just I've gotten what I need to get out of them. Like, I don't particularly want to hear about someone fucking sucking farts out of someone else's arse, which is that Bro Job album. It's literally called Bro Job. Like, I mean, they are obviously very good, but they're just like their lyrical content is not exactly something I can listen to and take myself seriously listening to. So it's kind of like a one and done album for me, and it's still above Rivers and Oil. I know people are gonna hate on that so much because obviously Rivers and Oil are very good technically, but that sound, just, I can't get into it. I don't know what it is. It's like that sound of deathcore that I can't do. So yeah, that's the D list. I don't think there's much chopping and changing that needs to be done there. Opeth Blackwater Park is similar to Rivers and Oil in the sense that I just never really got into Opeth, and I know that's gonna like hurt a lot of people because Opeth have some fanboys. Not as brutal as the Slipknot fanboys, because Slipknot fanboys are weird, but Opeth have just kind of like, it's almost like just pure disappointment whenever I say I don't really like Opeth. So I always kind of feel for the Opeth fanboys a little bit. I'm sorry, but it's just how it is. I'd probably listen to Polyphia over Darko, so we'll swap that. Heroin is definitely the highest on the list, followed by, yeah, I think we've gotten this pretty spot on so far. Do you know what? I put Nothing Back. I think that's pretty accurate. I would maybe put, this probably falls down here, to be honest. Yeah, there's no way I'd listen to this. Do you know what? Heroin's getting a promotion. Heroin's B. Bela Maya is Yeah, I put these kind of here together. Meshuggah. Yeah, I think that's fair. This goes here. Well, heroin's moving up in the world. Yeah, this goes here. What I'd rather listen to? Well, heroin's jumping here. I don't think it's getting... It shouldn't be going much higher than this, but from what I'm seeing ahead of it, it's like, yeah, okay, definitely. Yeah. I mean, yeah, we've already spoken about these two. Probably a little bit interchangeable, but I think I like Currents more than Silent Planet just by a fraction from what I've heard so far. I'd say maybe here. Yeah, definitely. Here. That feels crazy that this album's right beside this album. This goes here. Oh god, I don't know. Am I really gonna move Architects up? Am I gonna I am, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Architects moves up. Meshuggah moves down. And again, it's like I love Meshuggah. I've got a great place in my heart for them, but if I was to listen to these albums again, this is what I'd choose. I prefer to listen to Architects' newest album over that. Oh, that sounds so bad, man. That sounds so bad, but I like the Meshuggah that I like, and everything else is a bit exhausting to listen to a certain extent. This sounds so bad, man. I love Meshuggah. Like, Meshuggah are my band, man. It's just a safe place. But I love melody, and that Architect's new album, although it's kind of generic and a little bit shit compared to their older stuff, which I now can say with confidence because I've heard 2 of their older albums. It's catchy. There's a lot of catchy tracks in it, and I prefer to be able to sing along than have my brain melted by Meshuggah's weirdness and their weird timing. So there's a time and a place for Meshuggah 100%, and that is why obviously Immutable is sitting at that B tier. But like, I still think Meshuggah's best album is probably Obzen, which obviously we heard the year before, but Obzen would be like high A, I'd say, if it was on this list. Anyway, let's go to A. I think that's pretty... That goes here. There's no way Paralyze is there. Do you know what? No. Meshuggah's moving up. Up here. Yeah. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, I feel a little bit more confident with this now. Where's Dark Waters? Wait. Where's Dark Waters? Oh yeah, it's an E3 listen to. Yeah, I need to listen to that one. Right, let's go A. Fit for an Autopsy or Alien? Alien. Alien or Era? Era. Era or Dig Deep? Era. This is actually a good way of doing it. Era or Iridescent? Oh, this one's hard. This one's so hard. Oh, this one's hard. Era or Iridescent? Oh man, Gungrave is one of the best riffs I've ever heard in my life. Gungrave is so stupidly good. We're really comparing this at the moment, like Panopticon as well. The Second Son is one of my favourite songs. It was in my top 20, I think. And Iridescent was up there as well. Feel it all, I feel it all, why do I have my and wide awake on the... Oh. Reticent is so good as well. But it's not just the tracks on it, it's the album feel. I feel like Iridescent goes ahead of Era because Iridescent feels like I'm more invested in the story. Especially having heard the backstory of the whole, you know, Gareth and his dog, and just, I think Gareth's writing is very, very good. Love Era. But I think if I was to compare these two albums, I think there's more emotional connect to Reticent. So that for that reason, it's going to go ahead. Time the Evaluator or Reticent? Oh god, I'm going to say Time the Evaluator beats out Reticent on that one because it's just so similar to Altered State. And people were giving me stick for saying I kept bringing it up, but I literally spoke to the bassist of Time the Evaluator, who reached out to me after the reaction. I think it's Ryan something, I can't remember the exact name. Shout out to Ryan if you're watching. And he was literally, he confirmed, he was like, yeah, like, I mean, obviously massive inspiration was Altered State. So I was like, everyone who was like grief me for saying that. So you got, okay, so that's definitely, yeah, Time the Evaluator, How Fleeting, How Fragile goes ahead of a Reticent. Loads, I Let It In. Oh man, this actually might be S. It kind of feels like it might be S. You know, I'm going to throw it high A. I obviously only included one single from that album on the top 50 list. Looking back on it, I could have had that Broken Rhythm track on it as well, and maybe one or two other ones, but I think the overall sound of that album, the album as a whole, is like so high up. But I think the singles, yeah, they're good obviously because they fit into the album, but I just think the overall feel of that album is so weird, man. It's just like horribly eerie. Like, it reminds me of like the soundtrack to like a Saw movie or something. It's just got that cool, eerie, like just freaky sound. So it's very, very unique. So it's gonna be high A. Valde or Time the Evaluator? Yeah. This moves back. Oh wow, now I have to rearrange everything. This is gonna be okay. Right now, this is where it gets hard. Mastadin. Yeah. How Fleeting goes here. Oh, this one's tough. This one's so tough. Oh god. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Color Decay beats that. Does this beat this? Yes. Does this beat this? Does Era beat this? Yes. Does Valde beat this? No. Does... Oh god, this is so fucking hard. These aren't even fun. Like, I'm not enjoying this because it's just like, it's, my brain is thinking about every single song. I'm just like, oh, this is so hard. Oh god, Color Decay or In Stasis. I've got to put In Stasis ahead of Color Decay because it's kind of stood the test of time, and I still love them tracks. How long I'll love the songs of Color Decay for, I'm not sure. And I think In Stasis shits all over Color Decay from an instrumental technicality standpoint, but it also delivers some of the ridiculous melody that Andy Cizek is capable of delivering with his vocal range. And I think he's just way more talented as a vocalist over Color Decay's the Devil Wears Prada's vocalist from that album, because I haven't heard any of their other music. So In Stasis beats Color Decay. Lost Forever, Lost Together, or Lost Together, I can't remember. In Stasis goes ahead because I haven't heard enough of this. I've heard it a good few times. It's an incredible album, but and then that's got to fall back again. Yeah. Slice the Cake is so good. Odyssey to the West goes ahead of that. This is kind of losing points because I haven't heard it enough times yet. Like, it's so good, but it's just not stood the test of time. It has to keep falling back, unfortunately. But Holy Hell kind of takes its place there. So I'm going to say Lowe's, I Let It In and Took Everything is number 1 on the A list. I'll say Holy Hell is number 2. I'll say In Stasis is number 3. Graveview, oh god, Graveview's taking a hit here, I'm sorry. Oh, Graveview or Time, oh, How Fleeting, How Fragile. How... Oh god. I think how fleeting finishes stronger than Graveview, so it goes ahead. Yeah, okay, I'm happy with that. I let it in is A1. I think I'm happy with that for the moment. Load could probably slide in here. I just think it's such a unique sound. Let me just see what it looks like there. And then holy hell. And then in stasis. Okay, for the moment load's gonna stay in S. Oh god. How am I gonna do this? This is gonna be impossible. I think... Oh, this is so hard. The way it ends is that... Okay, let's do it the way in which I was doing it before. Is I let it in and it took everything better than Humanity's Last Breath's self-titled album. Oh, God. I think the self-titled by Humanity's Last Breath is a little bit more repetitive sounding than Lowe's. So I think on that, it just has to. I think Lowe's keeps you on your toes for the entire album, and it is just such a unique sound. Humanity's Last Breath is absolutely unbelievable. That album just gets here based on a headbanging ability album. Like, not the biggest vocal fan. No melody really in it at all, I don't think. But just from a riff standpoint and how completely relentless it is, it's got to be S tier. But I think all of these albums kind of have that. Like, they're S tier albums. They all have riffs and they all just completely destroy you continuously. So consistently good throughout the entire album. They're S tier. There's very few flaws with any of the albums. But I think Humanity's Last Breath falls into the very, very end of that, because although it probably could beat any of these albums from a pure riff standpoint, I just think it lacks in the other departments, which these other albums do so fucking well. Like melody, concept, overall song structure, lyrics. Just, it's, yeah. So, I let it in, or the way it ends. Yeah, it's a no-brainer. It's the way it ends. The way it ends, or Obsidian. Oh man, Obsidian is so good. You might have to get... Oh, this is going to be hard. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. Obsidian or the Dark Pool? This might be the hardest question of the entire day. Oh god. Do you know what? I think I'm gonna just make things a little bit easier for myself and move the Sun Sleeps back, because although it is so S tier, it's only an EP, so I feel like it's kind of cheating because it's just 2 tracks. I know it has 3 on it, but one of them is like, it's just an interlude for the next track. So I think it has to fall back. I know I had it as my track of the year for one of the singles on it, but it just needs to jump back a bit because it is kind of cheating, but it is so good that I still think it beats out these 2. So it's really a 4-horse race at this point for this section here. And I think Obsidian and the Dark Pool beat out the way it ends. These 2 albums have been, without a doubt, my just consistent, just going back to all the time. I'm not forgetting this fella here as well. So it's just these 3 really, I think, now that I really have to figure out. This is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. This is probably the hardest decision I'll ever make in my life. It's a tough life. I'm gonna say... okay, this is like coming down to fractions here, lads. So I have to make a decision. Like, I'm just gonna go by the feel of what, like, I'm just gonna listen to a few tracks off both. You're alive. Oh, guys, this is so hard. I'm running out of time. When you know when you really like start to like actually break down how good an album is, and you just start like realizing this is so fucking good. Like all of these tracks. Dark Solitaire as well. Even the outro track is just like one of them that I didn't really fuck it that much when I first heard it, but it's just like, oh, like listen to the soundscape. It's just so much nostalgia because I grew up listening to so much EDM music, but it also has this fresh, like, new metal sound that I love. It's so dense. The guitars in this album are so disgustingly heavy, but it just doesn't feel, because it has like this overall uplifting feel to it as well. Oh man, this is... Let me give the Dark Pool its credit, because it's also just so goddamn good. Okay, I think I'm making up my mind here. I think from an overall emotional standpoint, I think this album is like... My heart says this album, okay? This is probably the best way of doing this. My heart says this album. My mind says Obsidian. Just from that quick, like, emotional check to see what I'm feeling. I just got way more hyped about Obsidian there. Obsidian is gotta be ahead of the Dark Pool. But it's like, lads, it's like completely like fractional. Like it's not even like measurable. Like if you was to look at how close, it's not even like what am I talking about? It's so close. And my number one album, I mean, it's a little bit obvious because I left it there for a reason. Because of one, it holds a special place in my heart. Because it was the first time I really got into Thal. Like, I'd heard Thal projects before without really knowing it was Thal. But this was the first time I'd sat down and just said, right, hey guys, let's see what album we're going to check out. You Gotta Do Valjarta, iconic album. Try My Stand Under Vat, their most recent album. I said, okay, I'll do that. Sat down, read a bit about, you know, the band, the origins of Thal. And just from that point onwards, I just felt like it kind of opened the door to a new sound that I'd never experienced before. It just felt like something new that I'd never experienced, that I was like, okay, this is a whole different planet. This is a whole different world that I've now just been included in. And I've not looked back since. Obviously, you can see on the list, there is The Sun Sleeps As If It Never Was, which is, you know, this one here, which is that EP. Has massive Thal elements in it. And then Humanity's Last Breath, which is obviously also Buster Odahem. I don't know how to say his second name. Also a member of both bands. An absolute wizard. Shout out to Buster as well. But my album of the year that I've heard personally is none other than Valjarta Mastaden Undervaten. This album is like, I'm not even joking. I've actually considered I've been considering, like, I was even speaking to someone last night, and now granted this was after a few drinks, so you know, New Year's we were celebrating, and I've been thinking about it for a while. The album artwork alone on this album, it's like I've been looking to get new tattoos recently, and I'm like very, very much so considering even looking into the idea of getting some of the artwork from this entire album tattooed on my arm. It's just so cool. Like, music aside, I just love the dark nature of the whole feel. I've never seen album artwork capture the sound of an album so well. It feels like it's something out of a movie. It's that this album is like, feels like it was created 100 years in the future, and we're discovering it now for some reason. Like, somehow it was created by fucking aliens. It is one of the most technical albums I've ever heard. It's just so groovy. It has so many weird breakdowns, so many disgusting breakdowns. But I think what really does it for this is when you put this album on, it feels like you're actually being like, I get into like this weird, like, I'm in this forest that I can only describe as looking like that album artwork. It's like, I feel like I'm in this new world that like is created by this album. It's so, I don't know how, like, if I'm making sense, maybe you guys will understand, but like, I feel like all these dudes are just gonna start running out of me. Like, all the people on I'm not gonna take all this out, but I got a really cool like poster kind of thing with this, and it's fucking sick. For anyone who has the album, you'll know, but it has like really cool artwork with it, which that'd be really cool to put on the wall or something. But man, this album, it's like chef's kiss. It's amazing. So that is the best album list that I've heard all of 2022. And like, I mean, it was a nice reflection moment to go back and really like look at all this. It's gonna fall. What a year. What a fucking year of music, lads. Look at this list of music that I've heard. Now, I'm hoping to next year, if I can get the same amount of work done this year, or I should say this year, because it's not next year anymore. We're literally on the first day of the year. Well, I don't know when this is going to go out. Maybe tomorrow, or hopefully today. It'll probably go out tomorrow now that I think of it. If I can get like the same level of this next year, it will just be, I keep saying next year. Sorry, 2023, this year. I'll be so happy. Like, if we can just match this, it's going to be tough to look at the albums we've heard this year. But the beauty of it is, there's more albums to come this year. Big drops that are coming. And I've got so many albums to catch up on as well. So it's a beautiful time, lads. So that is going to be me for this video, because we have been recording for 1 hour and 23 minutes. Again, I want to reciprocate. That's not the word. I want to... What's the fucking word I'm looking for? Shit. I don't know. Basically, I want to say thank you guys all again. I kind of mentioned it in the last video of my top 50 tracks of the year. Now, obviously, they kind of differ to this list, but album wise, yeah, this is how I feel it should be. Again, maybe I've got some slightly wrong. It's very hard to do, especially live. Like, I didn't really plan this at all. I didn't put out a list. Obviously, with the last video I did on the top 50 tracks, I had a list and I put it all together and I edited it, and I had time to think about it. This one I've obviously thought about throughout the year, but this is the first time I've really sat down and seen them all in front of me. So yeah, lads, what a year. Again, thank you so much for all the support across the channel, whether it be Patreon, just the YouTube comments, liking the videos, just viewing the videos, all the support I get, guys. It's been absolutely amazing. I love the niche community that we've grown here, and I can't wait to see more growth in the future, in the new year, lads. So yeah, first and foremost, thank you so much for watching, guys. Everyone, I hope you have a great year. Please do leave a like in this video if you did enjoy. If you would make any changes to my list, I'll actually get it up here, because I completely forgot that you guys aren't looking at the screen right now, and I'm sorry for that. That is the list. One last look at it. Again, the need to re-listens, I will get around to that at some point. Some of them I probably won't, but they have to be somewhere on the list, so I just have to put them into I'm stuttering. I had to put them into need to re-listen. I'm out of breath, guys, because I'm talking so much. I'm unfit as fuck. Guys, thanks so much for watching. I'm signing out. Look after yourselves. I will see you throughout the course of the year. I'm looking forward to getting into the next run of albums because, yeah, we obviously have to do all the kind of the necessities with the end of the year roundup videos, but they're all done now. We're done with this. Back into listening to new albums and creating an even better list for next year, hopefully, guys. So thank you so much for watching. I'm signing out. Look after yourselves. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.